Growing up, I never shared the bond with my father, Rick, the way daughters typically do with their dads, though I never imagined he'd completely remove me from his life. Rick was the sort of man who approached fatherhood as a duty rather than something special. He did his part by paying the bills and ensuring there was food for us, but love, warmth, and tenderness were things I only encountered within the pages of stories. At 13, when my parents went their separate ways, my mother and I stood watching him pack his things without a trace of emotion, as if he were merely checking out of a hotel. He assured us with a casual, "You can visit anytime," making it sound more like a suggestion than a commitment. Yet he never came to see me. Calls dwindled, excuses multiplied. Busy with work, maybe next weekend. I soon learned not to hope. I thought I was used to the letdowns by then, wiser to his ways, until that fateful day on Facebook shattered my assumptions. It was a lazy Sunday afternoon, post-cleaning of my modest apartment, a symbol of my independence, without any help from him. I lounged on the couch, scrolling through social media, idly liking photos of people I barely knew. And then, it hit me, a wedding photo of my father, grinning beside a woman I didn't recognize, as if life had handed him a winning ticket. Her dress, a luxurious champagne hue, spoke volumes of its costliness. She clung to him like they shared eternity already. Two teenagers stood alongside them. The caption read, "My new family. Feeling blessed." My heart skipped. My new family. It couldn't be real, but there it was, undeniable. A celebration of a monumental event in his life, of which I had been kept in the dark. Frantically, I clicked through album after album, ceremony, reception, every joyful moment captured. Everyone beamed but me because I simply wasn't there. I hadn't even been invited. My hands trembled, clutching the phone until my knuckles turned white. I scrolled faster, hoping for a mistake, while a distant cousin's comment, "Congrats, Uncle Rick. So happy for you and your beautiful family," seared into my memory. Beautiful family, as if I was never part of one. A cold fury surged through me. He had replaced me. The signs were all there. A few weeks back, he rang for the first time in months. The call had been stilted. "Hey, kiddo." He began with a nickname that felt foreign. He simply informed me of his marriage plans, a low-key affair, just the two of them, he claimed. I swallowed my hurt, reasoning it wasn't significant, imagining a courthouse signing, nothing opulent. But reality mocked me. This was lavishly orchestrated, with a guest list I wasn't on. The betrayal was a punch to the gut. My father, my own flesh and blood, orchestrated a wedding excluding me but welcoming new stepchildren their front row seats. They shared cake, laughter, family experiences I was denied. Tears threatened, but I wouldn't give in, not for him, not anymore. I steadied my breath, pondering what came next. Could I ignore it, feign ignorance of it, convince myself not to care? But I did care, and he needed to learn I wouldn't be erased easily. With determination, I stared at the call button on the screen. This wasn't just about his marriage, it was about erasing me. I needed answers. The phone rang once, twice, then his voice, so calm, so regular, like nothing had changed in the landscape of our lives. I steeled myself. "Hey, Dad," I said, injecting stability into my voice. "Congratulations." The pause that followed spoke volumes. "Kiddo," the nickname he used when I was a child, back when I believed he was a caring father. "Thanks," he said, albeit a tad awkwardly. He didn't anticipate me finding out and certainly hadn't wanted me to know. I had already seen the photos, so I let the gravity of my words hang in the air. It looked like a beautiful ceremony. "It must have been wonderful to have your whole family together." A longer pause followed. "Tessa," he started again. "I thought you mentioned it was just the two of you," I interrupted, my voice now sharper. "Isn't that what you told me? Just the two of you?" It was small, he quickly clarified, almost as if he was defending himself. "Just a few close friends and her children. Her kids, not his, not me. So, her children were there to celebrate with you, but your actual daughter, was not." He exhaled a familiar loud sigh, a sound I had heard countless times when he wanted to avoid an issue. Tessa, listen, I didn't think you'd want to come. You didn't think I'd want to attend? My voice trembled, less with sadness, more with disbelief. Since when could you decide that for me? It wasn't like that, he mumbled. I just didn't want things to be awkward between your mom and me. Oh, don't even try to bring Mom into this, I retorted sharply. This was your decision, not hers, to exclude me. Silence. It felt like I could almost hear the mental gears turning in his head as he sought a way to rationalize it. I didn't intend to hurt you, he eventually said, his voice softer now. I've moved on, Tessa. I have a new family. There was confirmation of everything I had already sensed. My throat tight, I replied, so when you mentioned my new family on Facebook, you quite literally meant it. I'm not part of the picture anymore, am I? That's not. I began to protest. No, I understand, Dad, I declared coldly, with no emotion. You've replaced me, and that's fine, but don't expect me to pretend otherwise. He sighed once more. Tessa, I don't want to fight with you. Nor do I assured him, but I want you to remember this. This is the last time you get to deceive yourself into thinking your actions were acceptable. Tessa. I hung up, hands trembling, yet feeling more lucid than I had for years. This revolved around more than a wedding, more than a mere snub from an invitation. It was the fallout from years of neglect catching up with him. He assumed I'd simply move on, let it slide, as I had many times before. Not now. This time, he would understand precisely how exclusion feels. I had the upper hand, and I knew what my next move would be. I wasn't one to seek vengeance, or at least I hadn't envisioned myself like that. As I sat in my apartment, staring at wedding photos I hadn't been part of, something in me hardened. This wasn't solely about one betrayal. It was about years of being treated as an afterthought, as if I was merely an unresolved remnant from his past life. Well, he was about to learn I wasn't so easy to overlook. I took a deep breath and began typing. Congratulations on your wedding, Dad. Wishing you and your new family all the joy in the world. Since I wasn't invited, I'll celebrate from a distance just like you've taught me growing up. Hope your stepkids are grateful for the father they've got, since I never had one. Cheers. I hovered over the post button, heart thrumming in my chest. Normally, I wasn't this bold or confrontational, but the way he'd erased me from his life left me with nothing to lose. And clicked post. In seconds, notifications began flooding in, likes, comments, shares. Then came the messages, some from family members unaware that I hadn't been invited. Wait, you weren't there? Tessa, is this for real? Why would he do that? I thought it was a small ceremony, he'd said. Others from his side of the family were there, trying to justify his actions. Perhaps it was an accident, or maybe he assumed you were preoccupied. Sharing family disputes online doesn't reflect well. Suddenly, the awaited notification appeared. Rick had commented on my post. I clicked in haste, nearly dropping my phone. Tessa, can we talk? Please call me. Those words were in stark contrast to how I felt mere hours ago when I was meaningless to him, but now he needed to manage the fallout. For once, I held his full attention, though I wasn't ready to let go just yet. I navigated to his Facebook profile, reevaluating the wedding photos. All the smiling faces, the perfect moment of a family I wasn't part of. Amongst them was a comment from his boss. What a beautiful family, Rick. Best wishes to you and your kids. The word kids, in plural, struck me. His boss perceived us as a happy blended family. This was my breaking point. I retorted right under the comment. Actually, I wasn't at the wedding. Rick prioritized his stepkids over his own daughter. Just so you are informed. The public response ensured it couldn't be ignored. I imagined my father's reaction. The tense jaw, the habitual rubbing of his temples while figuring out damage control. This time he couldn't hide. Moments later, my phone rang, Dad's name on the screen. Once, twice, thrice, then it went to voicemail. A text quickly followed. Tessa, please call me. We must discuss. Surprisingly, now he pursued me, but I wasn't inclined to make it easy. I laid my phone aside, experiencing a long-forgotten sensation. Power. My father, after years of disregarding me, treating me like an easily neglected duty, was now learning the taste of exclusion. Yet I wasn't through with him. My phone buzzed relentlessly with his texts, calls, and voicemails. I had waited for years for him to notice, to engage, to initiate. Now he was the one longing for a response. Keeping him in suspense gave me a certain satisfaction as I prepared my final play. Then, after 2 days, I answered his call. "Tessa," he breathed, relief palpable in his voice. "We need to talk." "Do we?" I replied flat. "I assumed your new family would keep you occupied." His groan broke the silence. "Come on, that's not fair." That word, fair, almost made me laugh, considering fairness was never a principle he abided by. "Explain, Dad. What exactly isn't fair? That I wasn't invited to your wedding? Or the fact you never intended to inform me, leaving me to discover it through Facebook, like some casual acquaintance?" Silence, then his weary confession. "It wasn't intentional, Tessa. I didn't mean to hurt you." I exhaled sharply, demanding, "Then clarify, Dad. Why wasn't I worthy of an invite while her children were in the spotlight?" Prolonged silence followed then. "I didn't want to confront it," he admitted painfully. That revelation lodged a twist in my stomach. "Deal with what?" I asked, my voice ominously calm. "I anticipated complexity," he confessed, "given our past emotions. I figured if I kept it intimate, I'd avoid juggling it all, sparing you and your stepmom discomfort." The word uncomfortable hit like a blow. "So let me comprehend." My voice quaked with fury. "I wasn't invited to ease her apprehension?" "It wasn't merely about her, Tessa," he claimed. "Then who is it about? Because it certainly wasn't about me." In that moment of silence, it became painfully clear to me. He hadn't forgotten about me. He had consciously chosen to exclude me because it was more convenient, because I didn't fit into the idyllic lifestyle he was crafting. Wow. I exhaled in disbelief. I anticipated a poor excuse, but this is just sad. "Tessa, please," he began. "No," I interjected, gripping my phone tightly, my knuckles white from the strain.
"For once, you listen to me."
"You've spent years making me feel insignificant, like I was just a remnant of a past life you were eager to forget. Well, guess what? You wanted me out? Congratulations, you got what you wanted. But don't you dare call me now and pretend like you care." "That's not what I intended," he protested. "It's exactly what you intended," I shot back. "You just didn't think people would see past your facade." I heard the deep sigh on the other end, felt the weight of his exasperation. He wasn't used to me speaking up. "I don't know how to fix this," he confessed. "You can't." Silence. "Goodbye, Dad." I ended the call, and for the first time, I truly meant it. That night, I received another notification. Rick had deleted the wedding photos. I snickered. It felt too late, because no matter how hard he tried to erase it, the damage was irreparable. For the first time, I felt liberated. No more waiting for his call, hoping he'd acknowledge me as his daughter. No more pretending his absence didn't wound me. I had drawn a line in the sand, and this time, I wouldn't turn back. But life has its peculiar ways of testing your resolve. Just when I thought I was rid of Rick, he painfully made his return. It began with an unexpected email. After our last conversation, I assumed he'd vanish, immerse himself in his new family, and continue ignoring my existence, as he always had. But the subject line clenched my stomach. "We need to talk." I hesitated, then opened it. "Tessa, I know you're hurt, and you have every right to be. But I don't want our relationship to end like this. I was wrong and should have acted differently. Can we meet at least once? I owe you that much, Dad." I lingered over the words, waiting for them to ignite something within me. A part of me had always yearned to hear these admissions, that he had erred, that I deserved better treatment. But upon reading them, they felt meaningless. I closed the email without a reply, feeling I had nothing more to say. When he reached out again, it was via my mother. I was in the middle of folding laundry when my phone buzzed. Seeing her name, I smiled. "Hey, Mom." "Tessa, darling, there's something we need to discuss." I sensed the unease in her tone immediately. "What's wrong?" I asked.
She sighed.
Your father called me. I paused, bracing myself for what was coming. He wants to see you. I closed my eyes, holding the fabric tightly.
Mom, no.
Tessa, just hear me out. No, I insisted, firmer now. You don't understand. He didn't merely forget to invite me to the wedding. He chose to exclude me. He's been choosing to exclude me for years. There was a brief silence. I know, sweetheart, and I don't blame you for how you feel. I waited for her, but I think he's frightened. A cynical laugh escaped me. Frightened of what? Losing me? He already did. Tessa, people don't always realize what they have until it's too late. Maybe he's starting to understand that. I could sense the hope in her voice, the same hope I had clung to for years. But I was no longer that small girl waiting by the window for my father's arrival. I love you, Mom, but this isn't your battle. He made his decision, and now he has to live with it. A heavy sigh left her. I understand, sweetheart. I just don't want you to have regrets. I won't, I assured her, and this time, I truly believed it. A week passed then, too. I thought I had severed all ties, and then he appeared at my doorstep. I had just returned from work, feeling utterly drained as I returned from a long day and heard the familiar knock. My stomach twisted. Through the peephole, it was Rick. I hesitated, contemplating ignoring him and pretending I wasn't at home. But something inside me, perhaps curiosity or a leftover fragment of anger, made me unlock the door. I swung it open, my expression stern. What do you want? I questioned. He appeared older, more worn down than I recalled. His once assured posture now seemed to sag as if he'd been burdened by too much for too long. Tessa, he said, conjuring up a small, uncertain smile. Can I come in? I paused, holding his gaze before finally responding. No. Rick stood in my doorway, looking smaller than I had ever seen him. The same man who once seemed distant and unreachable, now appearing as if he had nowhere left to hide. Tessa, please just let me explain, he pleaded. I crossed my arms, determined not to make this easy for him. Explain what? I asserted, keeping my voice steady. That you didn't want me at your wedding? That you created a whole new family and left me out? That I only mattered when I made you look bad? He sighed, running a hand over his face, unfamiliar with this version of me. I deserve that, he conceded. I know I do. That was new, I thought, raising an eyebrow, and questioned. Then why are you here? His shoulders slumped, as if realizing no script would help him now. Because I lost you, he admitted plainly. For the first time, something in his voice felt genuine. I don't know when it happened, he continued, shaking his head. Maybe after the divorce, maybe before. But somewhere along the way, I convinced myself you'd be fine without me, that you didn't need me, and I let that belief become an excuse. His words, spoken years sooner, might have mattered, but now, their effect was uncertain. And the wedding? I inquired. Was that just another excuse? He swallowed hard. No, that was a mistake, a huge one. I should have wanted you there, Tessa. I should have fought for you, and I didn't. I can't take it back, but I need you to know that I regret it. His words of regret lingered, not love nor a desire to amend, merely regret. And regret wasn't sufficient. So now what? I asked, scrutinizing him. You say your piece, and then? You want forgiveness, as if nothing happened. No, he quickly replied. I know I don't deserve that. He paused, searching for words. I don't want anger to be the last thing between us. I looked at him, and for the first time, there was no anger, only an absence, because I had mourned my father's loss years ago. He was only now understanding what I had known for so long. We were finished. I'm not angry, I said, my voice steady. Not anymore. Relief flitted across his features, but I wasn't done. Yet I'm also not interested in fixing this, I added, watching his relief crumble. Tessa, come on, he implored. No, I broke in, shaking my head. You don't get to vanish for years and then show up when it's suitable for you. That's not how family or love works. His lips formed a tight line, as though he wanted to argue, but he had no defense. I hope you're happy with your new family, I said, stepping back inside, but I won't be a part of it. He opened his mouth, perhaps to speak or plead, but I closed the door before he had the chance, finally letting him go. That was the last time I saw my father. Initially, he kept trying more emails, more calls, but I ignored them. He had already shown me how to live without him, and I was finally ready to move forward. Without him, without his regret, without waiting for a love that was never coming, I had spent my life chasing a father who never pursued me back. I was done running.